You're like my only real friend, Sarah. Everyone at my new school pretends they like me because my mom writes the midnight books.
Hi. Are you a friend of Bree's?
Yeah, I am. Is she here?
Oh, no, she's at an appointment. She'll be back later, though.
She's not.
No.
Well, would you mind sending my copy of Midnight Blood-Drenched Tears, please?
They want to meet her or they ask me shit about what's gonna happen in the books. Like I know.
Oh, that's so annoying.
How's it going with your host sister? She goes back to Poland soon, right?
She was totally lame. She, kept to herself and was way into my mom.
I'm about to leave.
Oh.
I would like to say goodbye.
It was. You were such a big help.
Oh, thank you so much, Lily. You think so?
Yes. You were really helpful helping me move all that stuff to the gallery. Just really, it's just lovely to have you here.
I would love to be back.
Had the hots for her?
I don't know. She just asked about art and the gallery and all of that, but seemed to me like an excuse just to be around her.
Ew, what a weirdo. I have to go in a minute. I have an appointment with a healer. It's like a shrink for hippies.
Maybe the healer will rub crystals all over you.
Yes. Hi, I have some proposals and slides for Dana Pascali.
She had to take some to the airport last minute, but she told me to take your samples and she'll be able to call you tonight.
Am I making you uncomfortable? I'm sorry. I just get excited.
This film unfolds as a quiet, emotionally charged study of women navigating systems that were never designed to see them clearly, let alone hold them gently. And through scenes like Ava and Bree's intimate but non-sexual energy reading and Sin and Nikki's starkly human prison intake conversation, the movie becomes less a plot-driven narrative and more a meditation on what it means for women, particularly queer women, to be recognized as whole, complex, and worthy of care in a world that persistently fragments them. In Scene 2, the interaction between Ava and Bree is framed in language that could easily be dismissed by a cynical audience as new age or unserious. Yet, that dismissal itself mirrors how society often trivializes women's emotional labor and intuitive forms of care, especially when they exist outside male validation or institutional authority. Ava's approach, quietly sitting beside Bree, asking her to breathe, naming her invisibility without judgment, models a kind of attention that queer women often give one another in private, away from the gaze that would mock or sexualize it. And Bree's guarded responses, her slumped posture, and her discomfort with being seen echo the lived reality of many queer women who have learned early that visibility comes with risk. Ava does not fix Bree, nor does she claim power over her. Instead, she offers a shared language for embodiment and permission to take up space, reminding Bree that as women they are taught to breathe shallowly, to tense themselves small, to redirect energy downward rather than outward. A metaphor that resonates deeply with lesbian audiences who recognize how desire, confidence, and self-recognition are often suppressed not because they are wrong, but because they are inconvenient to heteronormative order. The moment Ava tells Bree that she is not invisible, that she matters, carries a weight that transcends the immediate scene. Because for queer women, affirmation so often comes not from family, institutions, or romance narratives, but from other women who recognize the same fractures in themselves. And the absence of spectacle here, the lack of dramatic music, confessions, or overt romance, underscores how radical it still is to portray women sharing emotional intimacy without justification. Scene 3, by contrast, situates its connection within the brutal logic of the prison system, yet the emotional through-line remains strikingly similar. Sin and Nikki meet not as equals in power, but as women shaped by abandonment, state control, and survival, and the prison setting amplifies how society categorizes certain women as problems to be managed rather than people to be understood. Nikki's seizures, triggered by stress and compounded by a childhood spent in detention and foster care, function symbolically as the body rebelling against containment, while Sin's careful questioning and refusal to reduce Nikki to her file represent an act of resistance within a dehumanizing system. For queer viewers, especially lesbians who have experienced institutional scrutiny, whether through schools, healthcare, or the carceral state, this scene resonates as a rare acknowledgement that harm is cumulative and structural, not merely the result of individual failure. And Sin's revelation that she too emerged from juvenile detention reframes mentorship as survival passed hand to hand, not charity bestowed from above. When Nikki asks Sin if she could be her mentor, the question lands with emotional gravity precisely because it is not romanticized. It is a request for continuity, for someone who understands without requiring explanation. And for many queer women, mentorship has historically filled the gaps left by families and systems that could not or would not support them. The quiet tenderness of Shin telling Nikki she is enormously bright, that this is not the end, parallels Ava's affirmation of Bree. And together, these scenes suggest a larger thesis, that women's healing often occurs in moments of recognition that are culturally undervalued, because they do not serve dominant narratives of success, romance, or redemption. The prison context adds another layer of queer social commentary, as incarceration disproportionately affects women who are already marginalized, poor, queer, traumatized, and yet prisons are often framed as morally corrective rather than emotionally destructive. A framing this film subtly challenges by showing how care must be smuggled into these spaces through individual relationships rather than systemic design. For lesbians watching, the prison setting may evoke both fear and familiarity, as queer women have long been overrepresented in narratives of deviance while being denied narratives of softness. And this film insists on showing softness anyway, insisting that it survives even under society's discomfort with seeing women express love for each other, whether platonic, romantic, or something unnamed, is evident in how such scenes are often dismissed as inappropriate, indulgent, or suspect. A discomfort rooted in the threat that women-centered bonds pose to patriarchal structures that rely on women's emotional availability being redirected toward men or institutions. Here, however, love is expressed through listening, patience, and shared history, forms that resist commodification and thus remain unsettling. The unspoken desire that lingers in both scenes is not necessarily sexual but relational, a longing to be understood without translation, to rest in another woman's presence without performing resilience or gratitude, and queer women in particular may recognize this as the quiet ache of wanting a life where connection does not require justification. Bree's struggle with her mother's fame and the loss of normalcy mirrors Nikki's struggle with early incarceration, in that both women are shaped by forces beyond their control. And Ava and Sin function as mirrors rather than saviors, reflecting back the possibility that identity is not exhausted by circumstance. The film's refusal to resolve these relationships neatly. There is no promise that mentorship will save Nikki, no guarantee that Bree's breathing exercises will heal her. Feels honest to queer audiences accustomed to narratives that either punish or idealize them, offering instead a space where becoming visible is itself an act of courage. Prison criticism emerges not through overt polemic but through the contrast between institutional coldness and individual warmth, suggesting that what prisons lack is not discipline but humanity, and that queer women who have historically built chosen families under hostile conditions understand better than most how survival depends on mutual recognition. Ultimately, the movie invites women and LGBTQ+ viewers to see themselves not as problems to be solved, but as stories still unfolding, and in doing so, it challenges the audience to confront why tenderness between women still feels radical, why emotional safety is treated as a luxury, and why authenticity remains a risk, especially for those whose identities fall outside what society deems acceptable. By centering quiet conversations, shared breathing, medical care offered with empathy, and mentorship rooted in lived experience, the film asserts that truth is not loud, that connection does not require spectacle, and that for queer women especially, being seen by another woman can be the first step toward seeing oneself, even in the most constrained environments, and perhaps especially there.